YouTube, and hello Ninth Age community. This is Charles, the Cybershade Gaming, and I've got another Ninth Age battle report. This is a friendly game, 4,500 points, played with my Ogre Cons against my opponent's Beast Herds. We played the multiple objectives that were released, I think it's almost about 2 years ago, a part of sort of a larger scenario packet. So, enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. This is the 4,500 point Ogre Con's army list that I ran. So I've got a Con BSB. He's got the Brace of Pistols with Heavy Armor, Troll Eater, Aether Icon, Viper's Curse, and the Yeti Furs. And then my Shaman is my General. He's got the Firebrand big name. He's got an Iron Fist with Light Armor. He's rocking Pyromancy. He's got the Ritual Bloodletter. He's got the Talisman of Shielding, and he's got the Wrestler's Belt and a Magical Heirloom. So he's like seriously decked out, but pretty cool. He's got 6 spells. One's the hereditary spell, 5 from Pyromancy. He's not terrible in combat. He's like Strength 5, only AP 1. That's his worst offense. And then he's got a 3 up armor save, 5 up Aegis save. So kind of a interesting character. I've got 2 things of 7 tribesmen, full command. One's got the Aether Icon, the other one's got the Skull of Quinette. I have 3 tribesmen with paired weapons. Then I have a Saber-Toothed Tiger, 4 Tusker Cavalry with a Musician and paired weapons, 4 Bombardiers with a Musician, a Stratapult, a Thunder Cannon, a Rock with a crossbow, and a Slave Giant with a gray weapon. And that's my 4,500 point Ogre Cons list. My opponent, rocking Beast Herds, has a Beast Chieftain. He's got a Battle Standard Bear Beast Chieftain with a gray weapon. He's Greater Totem Bear, Light Armor, Aether Icon ×2, and the Destiny's Call. And my opponent's got a Beast Lord General with the Beast Axe, Heavy Armor, Raised Trust Chariot, Shield, Throwing Weapons, Death Cheater, the Obscuring Fog, which is the opponent does not gain the Aegis or agility for charging, the Obsidian Rock. My opponent also has a Centaur Chieftain who's got Ambush, Light Armor, Paired Weapons, Throwing Weapons, and a Soothsayer, Evocation, Light Armor, a Wizard Master with Ancestral Carvings, Sea of the Dark Forest, and the Trickster's Cunning. So you have to reroll to wound against him. My opponent has 2 things of Mongrel Herds, which are both 30 models strong with the Banner of the Wild Herd. And then he's got 15 Wild Horn Herd with Ambush, Musician, Shield. He's got 8 Centaurs with Ambush, Paired Weapons, Throwing Weapons. 6 Gargoyles with Scout. 22 Longhorn Herd with Champion, Halberd, Musician, Standard Bear. Totem Bear, Blackwing Totem. 2 Single Raiding Chariots, and 2 Cyclopses. My opponent and I have the multiple objectives, which, if you haven't played them before, I'd highly recommend it. It's a fun game, very sort of different kind of pace of the game. The highlighted ones were from a different game I played. The ones we played this game, the C's are mine and the A's are my opponent's. So my multiple objectives for this game, which if you haven't played the multiple objectives, you generate them randomly by rolling a d6, or rolling a d3 first, and then rolling a d6. And you do it 3 times, and then you have your multiple objectives. To win the game, or to win the objective, you need to have more completed or still applicable to your game than your opponent. So if I have 2 of my multiple objectives still standing or completed, and my opponent only has 1, I win. If we're tied, nobody wins. It's sort of very similar to the way our objective system works in Ninth Age. So my objectives this game were I needed to spring the trap, which was I needed to have one of my units successfully charge an enemy rear facing. I had honors everything, which is none of my units may ever declare a flee reaction charge, not even involuntary. And then I had Dominion, which is I must have more scoring units within 6 inches of the center of the board than my opponent at the end of the game. And my opponent also had honors everything, so he could also not flee this game. He also had, this is different than mine, he had Thinning Out the Herd, which is basically he has to identify which one of his units has the most number of models in his army, and then he has to remove that unit as a casualty. So he chose one of his mongrel herds, and then, which is very, very thematic. And then my opponent also had magical heirloom, which is you basically put a little relic marker down, and each time a friendly model within or anywhere on the board casts a spell that's non-bound, non-attribute, you can move that little marker 3 inches, and then there must never be any enemy units within 6 inches of the relic marker's center at the beginning of the player turns. So this was my deployment. I have, starting on the right, I have my Slave Giant, my Scratapult, my Thunder Cannon, then I have my 4 Bombardiers with the Musician, my or Stonehorn, next to the one of the units, a Tribesman. I have my BSB in with the Tribesman next to the Stonehorn, and the Saber-tooth Tiger in between those 2 units. And then I have my other unit, 7 Tribesmen with my Shaman in it. I have the 3 Tribesmen little pack sitting behind my deployment in case something wants to ambush. And I have my Thunder Tusks, just sort of, they're Tusker calves, sort of just chilling on the left side of my battlefield in this picture, sort of just holding on that side of the field. So my opponent got to pick table sides. I picked to go drop first, and I dropped everything to go for turn 1. And this is my opponent's deployment. So he's got, starting in left there, he's got a single raiding chariot next to one of his Cyclopses, and then he's got another Cyclops next to the other Cyclops. He's got one of the mongrel herds next to that ruins. And in the ruins, he's got his big unit of Longhorns with both his BSB and his caster. He has his other mongrel unit, and the mongrel unit that is to the right of the Longhorns is the mongrel unit that I need to kill to get the objective. And then he's got his general on a raiding, or on the big boy chariot. I guess I can't think of what it's a piggy chariot, but I can't think of a razor tusk chariot. And then he's got another raiding chariot, and you can see he's got his he still needs to scout his gargoyles, and he has the 2 units ambushing on the back of his table. So for spells from Pyromancy, I got 1 through 5, and I've got Children of Umi with my magical heirloom. So I had to say, I thought the Firebrand was pretty cool in that it does give you a lot of spells. It was nice having like Fireball and Cascading Fire and Flaming Swords and the Flow and the Salvo. Very solid. I thought about taking Enveloping Embers, but even the mongrel herds, I feel like sometimes just the strength 4 is just better overall damage. And these are my opponent's spells from Evocation. So he has Spectral Blades, Whispers of the Veil, Hasten the Hour, and Touch of the Reaper. And then he also has Evocation of Souls. It's the attribute, and he's got his totems too. Yeah, he's got more than those totems because he's got a greater totem bearer. But I think he was looking for one of his cards, and I want to take the picture. So this is after he scouts his gargoyles just in his deployment zone. Since there really wasn't a great spot, he could have put him in that forest, but I don't think he really felt a great need to. I guess it might have been helpful to try to go after one of the Scratable. I guess it would have been something I would have wanted to shoot at turn 1. So he decides just to put him in his deployment zone, keep him as good chaff. And this is Ogre Khan's turn 1. So I move up my giant to start kind of threatening his Cyclops and maybe pull out that chariot. I only have to sort of pivot my chariots to shoot who I want to shoot. I move up my Bombardier slightly to get in range to shoot one of the Cyclopses or to shoot one of the mongrel herds. And my Ogre line just sort of inches up a bit. I had range for most of my Pyromancy. That was mostly what I was concerned about doing, was kind of getting that into range. I get Flux card 6, turn 1. I throw a Fireball at the Gargoyles, and I kill 3. They pass their panic. I throw a Cascading Fire at the Mongrels, and I kill some. And then I also get Pyroclastic Flow off, and I do some damage there too. As you can see, I think this was the shooting. I think my cannon hit, but my opponent got his Aegis save. And then the Scratapult hit and cleared out a good couple ranks of this Mongol unit. Took them down by about half, I think. That was very awesome. They failed their panic test. Only with they had the BSB reroll, but not the general. And then I shot my bombardiers at the Cyclops right there, and I was able to do a couple wounds. So pretty solid shooting phase. And this is going into my opponent's turn 2, Beast Herds. So, I think I forgot to mention how the Sea of the Dark Forest went down in that scouting picture too. So he put that right in front of his mongrels, so his mongrels or his longhorns got lots of cover and had a forest because beasts would like forests. And I'm not particularly fond of forests of ogres. They're not the worst thing in the world for me, but generally not all that supportive. So you can see my opponent moves up one of his raiding chariots. He pretty much moves up his raiding chariots, and his cyclopses to kind of pick on my giant. He moves the Mongols. He rallies the Mongol that fled the previous turn, and just sort of is inching up his whole battle line. There's some zoning I have with the Tuskers, obviously, but his general is pretty tough. I would definitely need to charge to probably do anything to him. And he doesn't get to bring up his ambushers because he has a hunting call this turn. So he gets Flux card 2. It doesn't really amount to anything, unfortunately. My opponent is magic is a dud turn 1, and there's no shooting, so we go to... Oh, and that's right, and the shooting also was a dud too, unfortunately. So this is going into OgreCon's turn 2. So I charge the Raiding Chariot, which flees. And I attempt to redirect into one of the Cyclopses, but I'm unable to do it. It was a really long charge. I think I needed an 11. So I fail that, and I go forward. I think I went forward about 5, so it puts me quite close to those 2 Cyclops now. And there's no other charges. Mostly because I felt that, if I charge the Raiding Chariot on the right there, he will, flee, and then I might put him in range for my general. So I move up. The Scratapult moves up to be able to fire at the Longhorn herd. I figured better to move and suffer the movement penalty to get in short range and not have to worry about cover. Hitting on a 5-up's not too terrible. I move up my bombardiers so that the first rank is in the forest and they have short range on the one Cyclops. See if we can poke some more wounds on that bad boy. And I just kind of inch up my ogres a bit more to make sure I have the ranges I want to get getting closer to the center of the board. And yeah, I'm able to, I get Flex card 1, and I save a Veil token. I throw a Pyroclastic Flow at this chariot to try and get rid of it so that I just don't have to deal with it. But I think I only do 2 wounds. And shooting over here, I'm able to put 2 more wounds on the Cyclops. And then shooting over here with the Scratapult is able to put, looks like 7 wounds on this unit, which is really solid. Takes out a whole rank. At the start of Beast Herd's turn 2, my opponent declares charges with his Cyclops, and the Giant is going to try and just beat up the Giant in combat. And then I believe that's it for my opponent. Oh, that's right, and he charged the Raiding Chariot into my OgreCons. They make it in. He's able to bring up the Centaur here. They're going to try and pick on these artillery pieces right here. And you can see the mongrel herd flees off the board. I can't remember how they did that, actually. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know they fled off the board, though. Maybe they didn't rally last turn and they still fled a little bit more. This is going into evocation. My opponent gets Whispers of the Veil off on my Rock. And he also gets Touch of the Reaper. Thankfully, it only does 1 wound. These guys throw, and they don't really have a great throw, unfortunately, and they only do 1 wound to the Scratapult. And the Raiding Chariot does 2 wounds, and then the Ogres are able to take care of it. Combat here is mostly a push. I think they do 1 wound, and I think I do 1 wound back, and actually no, that's right. I do 2 wounds to the one that has full wound. So he does a wound, I do 2. He has a charge. It's a total push. You can see the other Wildhorn unit did come on the board too. So this is OgreCon's turn 3. I attempt to charge the general with the Tusker Cav, but I fail. I charge both my Ogre blocks and my Rock into the Longhorn herd. And then I just sort of turn around with some of my shooting. I'm going to try and hit the Centaurs with the Thunder Cannon's Grape Shot. I'm going to hit them with the Bombardiers. And then I think I was able to pivot and still be 12 inches away with the Scratapult to hit the wild horns that came on the board there too. So, and then my Ogre little 3-pack moves up to support the units that have been, they're fighting the ambushers, and yeah, lots of combat this turn. Only really able to get up Children of Umi, but that's good enough for me, I feel like. I will put that on my BSB's unit. Yeah, I think this is the Scratapult hitting and taking off 5 of the Wild Horns, which is really good. Scratapult doing its thing, doing awesome. And between the Thunder Cannon and the Bombardiers, we only really kill about 2 of the Centaurs here, so they're still quite a threat for me. This round, I think I do one. No, I think I might break up my attacks. And it's a really blurry picture, but I think my opponent does another 2 or 3 wounds, and I think I almost do the same. I think I do 1 wound to the one that had 3 or 4 wounds previously, and I did 1 wound to the other one. So we're all still alive, we're all still in combat, just beating on each other. And this is going into that Longhorn combat, so yeah, the impact hits were devastating. You can see they really, really did a number on the beast herds. I think this is actually, I can't remember, this might be the Rock putting attacks on that guy or something like that. And then the Rock took 2 more wounds in combat, took 2 wounds on the Shaman's unit. I lost a whole Ogre on the BSB's unit, and then we go back and we're able to kill the rest of the Longhorns, which is great because now they don't have any bodyguard. And I think we even kill the Shaman with the Rock too. And it pretty much just a BSB that's got a wound on him. And after combat, we pursue with the BSB's unit, but we do not catch the other BSB. We turn the Rock to face the Cyclopses, which I think I fought that combat first, and the Giant died. And then we kind of just kept the Shaman's unit looking at the Mongol herd because we want to go fight them to get the objective. Yeah, I think this is just showing this guy is in the ruins. He might have taken a wound or some point. I don't know. Yeah, this is at the end of OgreCon's turn 3. Actually, yeah, that's right. I don't think the Giant has died yet, but he's about to. Or maybe that was me just wanting to go save the Giant with the Rock. So the Centaurs go after the Bombardiers, who I think could stand and shoot, but I don't think they do anything. I make a mistake here and I flee with these guys, so we're both not going to be able to get our honor as everything objective because he's fleed and I fleed, but I get away from his general who charges. And then my opponent decides to just throw the mongrels into the ogres to go first and try and kind of do as much damage. I mean, I think he would have gone first regardless, but I think he was just kind of feeling like doing it. And yeah, we beat up the mongrels, no problem. We almost get into the general, but not quite there. But my turn's coming up next. Yep, the giant dies, which ends up panicking the Scratapults. These guys just turn to face the inevitable. He takes 3 of the Bombardiers down, and then one does a couple wounds. They lose combat and gets 2 down. This is going into Ogrecon's turn 4. I bring the Rock in, and he mops up the Cyclops. Yeah, you can see this. I think this was just the shooting that went on to these guys. Yep, you can see me going from one Cyclops to the next. And then I also, on my turn 4, charged his general with my Shaman's unit and got into a fight with the Shaman. Couldn't really do a lot to him, but I had a lot of combat rest because I was on his flank, and he fleed. We couldn't pursue him down. And then the tribesmen over here were fighting the Wildhorns and having relatively easy time beating them up, pursuing them down. And my kind of the BSB's unit has to fight this lone centaur character. You can see this is kind of pausing, a lot of kind of fast pictures there showing the carnage. Yeah, the Rock Made quick work of the Cyclopses with all those impact hits, and the Thunder Tusk, or not Thunder, the Tusker Cavalry rallied, so that was great. Still got my BSB's unit in the center of the board to claim that piece of the objective. And yep, kill that, turn around. This guy goes in and does 2 wounds to my BSB, and then my BSB is able to slay him. It looks like we might have actually had to pursue him too, because we're definitely not in that forest again. And yeah, the general rallied, and we went into him again on Ogrecon's turn 5. And this is just showing kind of the movement back. The BSB is still chilling there. He's still alive. Doing what he can to try and support his general, which is unfortunately not a ton. And in this combat, it's a push basically. I think, I think I end up doing. I think I take a wound, and I'm not able to do a lot. I get Children Umi off though in the magic phase to keep my shaman alive. So actually, yeah, I took a wound, and I think he put a wound on, but my opponent's able to stick around. Yep. Yeah, very short Beastard's turn 5. Not a lot he's able to do. This might actually be Ogrecon's turn 6, actually. Which is basically Stonehorn gets the BSB. Tuskers go to help the general and the shaman, who's kind of taking a couple wounds, but decently holding on against the Beastard general. Get Flux card 4. Get Children of Umi off again, and then able to break this guy with combat res. Almost lose the shaman though. He is giving up half points. He's got 4 wounds on him, and that's the end of the game. This ends up being a 17-3 Ogrecon's victory. There was no objective winner with the multiple objectives. I ended up fleeing, and so did my opponent, so neither of us got the honor as everything point. I did have more units within the center of the board than my opponent, so I got a point there. My opponent lost his mongrel unit, which got him a point. He thinned out his herd. I wasn't able to make a rear charge, and my opponent kind of just kept his relic in the rune all game, and I never went close to it. I definitely forgot about it at the end of the game. I maybe could have got the rock there, but I definitely kind of sort of forgot to do that. So yeah, fun game with my opponent. Thank you for all watching, and thanks to the Beaster player I played.